So you've done so much of the course of your career. You've done superheroes, horror, drama, comedy, sci-fi. What do you look for in a part, even beyond just kind of the genre trappings? What is it about Peripheral that kind of dragged you in and made you need to be a part of it?
Well, I was really excited to work with the creators, of course. Being able to work with Lisa Joy and Jonah Nolan, being able to dive into a William Gibson novel over the course of 8 episodes. I think it's finally the credit that William Gibson deserves on screen to really dig into the decadency of his work. And of course, the character of Flynn Fisher. You know, she is a truly formidable female character, and her growth throughout the season was something that I found really exciting, and I knew that I could kind of take a bite out of it and chew on it for a while. And on top of that, you know, I think there was the opportunity for me to kind of shed away the layers a little bit, because I feel like Flynn is very similar to who I am. And I think for the first time I was able to kind of be very vulnerable in this character, and it was really wonderful to kind of find those intricacies that I hadn't really found before.
Fantastic. And then something I loved about Flynn as a character is the empathy bonus. She is somebody who may feel constrained, but is always going to try and help those who she also feels are constrained.
Yeah.
Like there's an inherent, especially with the kind of bombastic sci-fi elements, it's a very humanizing element. What was it like to kind of balance those two sides of the show and kind of keep that focused on the human side?
I mean, it was very important. That was something that we were all super aware of throughout production, was that there was always going to be a humanity element throughout, and that no matter how far we got, we would always kind of boomerang back around to Clanton and boomerang back around to Burton and Flynn, and understand who we're supposed to trust and what they're in it for, you know, and that hopefully no matter how daunting it gets, we'll be able to use what they find out in the future to change their existence in their reality currently.
Fantastic. And then there's one last quick question. What surprised you the most about Flynn? Was there anything that really, when you first got the scripts, when you read the novel, when you kind of got an idea of the character and then got to actually play her, bring it alive, bounce her off the rest of the cast, bounce off the rest of the directors, was there anything that really caught you by surprise about this character?
Yeah, you know, I think one thing that we really wanted to find within her was her ferocity. You know, she was always good no matter what, but something that we really wanted to find was her fervor and kind of her pushback, and when she kind of reaches her limit, when she would kind of come back and kick somebody's ass a little bit. You know, that was something that we really wanted to find that edge and carve that out for her.
So I really want to dive into the fact that this is so, you get to really lean into this humanizing element of the show. Like there's so much of the series that is, you know, robots and the future and alternate realities, but you get to have this really human element to it. Like what was that like to explore when the rest of the series, like what is it like juggling that?
Well, I think it was first of all wonderful. I mean, I think that those intrinsic human values are what may give the show its stakes. You know, if there's nothing to fight for, why are we fighting? And I think all of us have been reminded in recent years of just how precious human relationships are, and family, and you know, losing people is very hard, and you'll do anything you can to avoid it, and what lengths you will go to. So, I mean, I think all of that was very resonant given where we are. So it was a joy. It was really a joy.
Now, what was it like working with the rest of the cast and trying to get that kind of that rapport going? Because it is immediately like, oh, we have to know what this family's going through. So we have so many other parts of the future to explain. We'd have to know what the family dynamic is. Was that like kind of finding with the rest of the cast?
Well, I mean, I was very lucky in that I had worked with Chloë when she was a little girl. I mean, very briefly on a little indie film, and it was just kind of wonderful to see her as a grown-up and as this extraordinary young woman. I mean, she's always been a phenomenal actress, but now she's a leading lady. And so immediately I had an enormous affection for her, because any kid that's grown up in this business and handled it as beautifully as she is someone to admire. And yeah, it was kind of built up. I mean, our first day we shot a very, very intimate scene, and it was so hard, I will say. And I was like, if I had one scene to go over and do again, it would be that one. And we did end up doing it again, so I was right.
You were completely on the point with that one, yeah. And then one last one, because I love asking performers this, because the first time you get the script, you see the character, you get an idea of, all right, I think I know I'm going to play this character, and that's not the case at the end of it. By the time that the cameras have rolled, by the time the lights have gone up, the character and the performance is so much different, because what you bring to it, what the director brings to it, what Chloë and the rest of the cast brought to it. What would you say surprised you the most about this? About the character, about the performance, about the role that you got to do. What surprised you?
I was sort of taken aback at her vulnerability, I think, because I think I read it as a very no nonsense, very like no self pity, no real. She's just tough. She's a tough Southern woman who's raising her kids in a very trying situation. And I think what surprised me both within the character and as an actor were those moments where I was so deeply moved just by being with Chloë and feeling the tenuousness of that relationship and how tender it is.
It's the moment where she just admits that I know what gonna die. It's fine. That's like, oh, that's so sad.
I know.
I just want to know because every time I was looking at you, I just wanted to call you character Mama. I'm like, she has a real name, but that's what I just want to say.
I know, Mama. She's Mama.
Now, one of the things I love about it is it's got so many little humanizing elements. Yes, there's multiverse. Yes, there's time travel. Yes, there's robots. Yes, there's all these different very sci-fi elements. Mm-hmm. But there is such a human core to it, including, these dopey people winning the lottery because of the future.
Yes, very much so. That was a fun day to do that. I really hope that I am that lucky in my own life to get plucked from obscurity and win some money. That would be awesome. So who wouldn't love that? Right?
Time travel!
Oh, yeah.
Now I got to ask, because this is such a uniquely challenging show because of that, because there's so many there's different genres all over the place, and apparently the future's mad at me for doing that.
Reaching back with car horns to mess with your interview.
The robots really didn't care for that one.
We soldier through. We keep going. So yeah, future.
I completely lost my train of thought.
Hey, we'll take the ball and just keep on running with it. I think maybe you were like prep or something about the show, or
it's kind of the balancing off because the show covers so many different genres. It has even beyond the sci-fi of it all. There's also just action, there's crime, there's all the elements. As a performer, what is it like to step into a series like this that is juggling so many things? That's asking the cast to do so many different things.
Yeah, well, blaring horns aside, what is challenging is there's to know what's going on at any given time and how it correlates from future to distant future is a trip in and of itself, and it's definitely something that kept me on my toes for sure. And then because Clanton and the near future in the show is, Burton's and Flynn's timeline and their home base is so relatable. There's also the challenge of bringing to life an area that isn't a real place, but it's based off of plenty of real places in Appalachia, and how to be honest about that and how to be specific about that within a huge scope of a sci-fi show of this magnitude. That's a challenge, but I think we did it. Pretty well. Hopefully, everybody else agrees.
Well, I'm so excited for everybody else to see and agree because it is fantastic.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And then kind of one last quick question, because I'm going to ask everybody this because it's one of my solid questions. Because I find that when you perform, when you see a character on page, first time you go, all right, I got it. I think I know what I'm going to do with them, and that's always different. That's so radically different than what you actually get to play, what you bring, what everybody else brings out of you. So, what would you say surprised you the most during this course of during the production?
How easy? It's an offshoot of your question a little bit, but how easy it was to just sort of sink into the suit of Leon, being surrounded by everybody embodying who they're supposed to be, and just the ease of a lot of moments surprised me, because you don't know who you're going to show up to work with. You don't know. We didn't meet each other before the pandemic, and it's also hard during COVID because we all have to quarantine and make sure that we're doing the right things to make sure that we're healthy and can continue doing the show. But as far as maybe like a moment or an element of the show, seeing us get it in the can and having it be a shoot that kind of felt a little bit like an indie movie at times because everyone's so close and tight-knit, and then seeing these magnanimous effects on the screen, seeing that and go, was I really a part of that? That's huge. Like, there's shards and Coids doing all what they do. It's like, it's crazy, and on the day it just feels like a manageable, tight-knit train of people doing a thing, So that was a bit of a head trip.
So you get the very interesting role, I thought, of getting to play Lev. Not only Lev kind of is giving the exposition, kind of giving the idea of how the future rolls out, how it plays out, but he has to be charming, but he also has to be, just a tiny bit unsettling.
He just wants to rule the world.
What's wrong with that?
I think he's misunderstood in his violent power grab. What could be wrong with ruling the world? No, he's an amazing character because he's trying to toe every party line. He's part of this Russian oligarch crime organization, but even they don't trust him, and he feels like he's got to be very careful in his big power struggle. And he's trying to maybe overstep his mark a little bit.
What would you say surprised you most about Lev? Because when you take a script for the first time and you get an idea of I see this character, I have an idea of how I'm going to play this character, that's always different than what you actually get to walk away with the character, based on what you bring to him, what the director, what the rest of the cast brings. What would you say surprised you the most about Lev?
His costumes. I didn't know that you could dress so well and be so bad. we had this Michelle Clapton, who was our costume designer, who has more silverware than an Olympiad. And as soon I turned up, and she had these looks, and I put them on, and they were stunning. And you're like, this is Lev. And very, some people talk about that. You step into the shoes. I'd never had that experience so much before, But apparently wearing Manolo Blahniks makes you Lev, so I demanded the finest shoes.
And then kind of just one last quick question, stepping into this sci-fi world, because there are so much sci-fi elements to it. There's time travel, there's alternate reality, robots everywhere, just robots for days. But then you also do get to find these real small character beats of trying to intimidate somebody who considers you maybe a friend, finding these real human beats within all of these very sci-fi trappings. What is it like to kind of find that humanizing element in such a wide spectrum genre like this?
Well, I think what's really attractive about this series is that sci-fi can get a bit cold sometimes, not always. But at the heart of this is a beautiful human story. And we've got Chloë Grace Moretz trying to protect her family. Her and Jack Reynor, an amazing duo, those two, playing brother and sister. And then we have this insane future. So we take a beautiful human story, and then we put it on the grand Jonah Nolan, Lisa Joy scale that we know they can do. I think it has a bit of everything, and first and foremost, it's William Gibson. He's the godfather of this genre, and it was a thrill to try and do justice to his incredible writing.
I've got to ask, coming into the series, this is a series that goes in so many different directions so quickly. It can shift so radically on your feet.
Yeah.
What excited you coming into the project?
Well, I was thrilled to see a trans character who was so smart and so funny and so odd, and yet, wasn't dying of some disease or prostituting on the street or prostituting while they were dying of some disease. It was the way the character was written was extraordinary. So that was the first thing. And the second thing was just the myriad of stories about family, about history, about past, about who were we and, how do we become the person that we're becoming and who were we before. Those questions are fascinating to me. It's such a smart show.
And you get to combine all of that with giant gunfights occasionally. It's a perfect sci-fi.
I mean, honestly, right? What else do you need?
No, this is why I love Oscar performance in general, because I always find that when you get a script the first time, you have an idea how you're going to approach a character, and that ends up being radically different than how you actually end up playing the character.
Yeah,
what surprised you the most? Looking back now, what surprised you the most about this role?
I'm loath to tell you this, but I'm going to say it anyway. So I'd never done an English accent for anything. I've been in this business since 1920, but I've never done an English accent before. So I didn't really know what to do. So I went to my favorite movie, Mary Poppins. And I watched, this is absolutely true, I'm not kidding. And I watched Mary Poppins, and I started to just repeat how she sounded. And she's got one line where she says, "Close your mouth, Michael, we are not a codfish." So that was the line that I repeated before I did my audition. And so when I did the audition, she was a little Mary Poppins-ish. Like a little odd, a little quirky, kind of stern. And then when I got to set, the accent was great. Like the director was like, "Well, you sound great, but you sound a little like a nanny." A little bit. we got to fix that. So we had to figure out how to bring down the nanny and bring up the inspector. So that was a big surprise to me. How to sort of be a little bit more analytical.
You're kind of finding the nice medium for it.
Right, that's right.
And I got a last question real quick, is that what are you hoping audiences get to take away from this? Because I know I have a lot of trans friends who are very excited for you to be in this role, and just to see this show and see, like you said, just getting to see more representation. What are you hoping audiences get to take away from this?
Look, here's the thing about any kind of representation of the marginalized. The fact of it is everything. Because no matter who's watching it, eventually, even if you hate it, you have to have a conversation about it. Right? You have to talk about it, even if you don't like it. And that, having any kind of dialogue, I'm for. I did Wicked about a year ago on Broadway. And the great gift of doing that, I played Madame Morrible, and the great gift of doing that was the hundreds of people that came to see that show. And the little children would stand outside when we would come out after the show and have to talk about the trans lady. They had to talk to Grandma about the trans lady. And 99% of what I received was compassion and empathy and love and kindness from people who probably had never even seen a trans person before. So to have someone in a character like this in a show like this is groundbreaking.
So I've got to ask, because Wilf, we kind of find out a lot about Wilf over the course of the series. So I was so curious, because it's a bit of a mystery box, especially when we meet him. Did you know, kind of going in, had you read all the scripts, or was that something you kind of discovered along with the audience? What was it like figuring out all these different pieces of Wilf and the person that he is and the person that's developed?
It was great. It was super exciting because in the book, this is an adaptation, and in the book I found Wilf to be quite stoic. Well, I don't know if stoic's the right word. He's a very still character. Doesn't give anything away, and not much develops out of that. We don't know too much about his background or his history. Whereas in this adaptation, he definitely does have a lot going on in his past. And it comes out here and there throughout the episode. So it was fun. I was kind of learning along with everyone else as I was reading the scripts. The creators did give me an idea of things that might happen, but not in too much detail. So it was fun. It was fun approaching it and finding stuff out and discovering stuff as I went along. Yeah.
That's awesome. And then you also, because one of the other elements of the show that is fantastic is it's juggling so many elements. It's juggling so much sci-fi with robots and parallel realities and all these different little elements. But it's also such a human story, especially you and Chloe alone just get so much to do in a pull and push kind of acting relationship, but kind of developing that. What was it like having that grounding element in something that could be a little bit bombastic and it'd be easy to get lost in the sheer vastness of this work?
It was super easy because Scott Smith did a really fantastic job with the text, and so I didn't have to ask too many questions or wonder about too much. I literally was turning up to what it says on the page. That is usually the case with great writing. You don't have to ask too many questions, it's all there. And he managed to put the humanity in the show, and then we just had to play it. So it's super easy and super fun as well.
So I love the fact that you get to do everything else in the series is so rooted in the sci-fi, it's so rooted in the robots, it's so rooted in the future. And you, meanwhile, get to really kind of have fun doing a bit of an old country criminal gang lord.
Yeah, just being, it's nice to be the king. To be the, at least in my little community, it's nice to be the guy in charge, so to say. And, as I was just speaking with a lovely lady over here, that, the character is so well written. And I made sure that I spoke the words exactly like they were on the page, because it depicted sort of the way he would speak, and certain words he would leave out of a sentence that ordinarily in a whole sentence would do, not, instead of saying what the, he'd be just the, but it shapes that character. And so man, he was a blast. This is one of my favorite characters I've ever played, and one of my second favorite characters was also given to me by Lisa and Jonah.
Well, I was actually going to bring this up because you've worked with them before, obviously, on Westworld, but what was it like kind of coming back? Was that the thing that grabbed you for this?
Haven't. Really. They're just they're just the best people. And they just so happen to be brilliant at what they do. And so, I'm a lucky guy. I'm so thankful to be in their good graces and that they welcome me to these wonderful parts. Yeah, it's great.
And I got a last quick question is, and I've been asking everybody, because I ask everybody, when you, as a performer, I know that when you first get the script, when you first see it's kind of speaking to the way the character was written, you have an idea, kind of like, oh, I think I'm going to play the character like this. I got an idea how to play the character. And not is so different than how things end up being at the end of production. Just what you discover with the character, what the director finds with the character, what the other actors bring out of you. What would you say surprised you the most during production?
Well, if you're talking about in my character development, look, the way I prepare is I read it and I read it and I read it and I think about how, try to get as much of an idea of how this man conducts himself. But when you're there and we're working with the other actors, that can change. But I'll be honest with you, he's so brilliantly written and so specifically written that I really didn't have a lot of surprises. I will say this, the little bit that I've seen, I was pleasantly surprised that what I did at least came off the way I hoped it would. That's me, and believe me, I'm the hardest, actors are always the hardest to please. So, but again, I really have to give credit to the words on the page and the story, and of course, the brilliant people behind it.
You get to wear a lot of hats in the series, though, because you're not only getting to kind of play this with the sci-fi elements of it, you're also getting to play with the drama elements with Chloë. You're also getting, sometimes you get to fire a machine gun at people.
Yeah.
What was it like to step into a series like this that really has you kind of taking a lot of different elements and kind of fusing them all together?
Brilliant, man. Like you wanna be stretched to do a couple of different things as an actor and feel a little bit out of your comfort zone sometimes, and you also want to have fun, And this was just a lot of fun. I loved the physical aspect of the role. I loved, jumping in and out of, the present and the future. I loved, the whole concept around another person being able to occupy this body that looks like you. It's fascinating stuff and just a lot of fun to play with. So, yeah.
Now I'm going to sort off because this is coming off of, building off of all the successes you've already had. Out of curiosity, what lessons did you learn from something like Westworld that you wanted to make sure to bring to this series?
Work with really, really talented people, and it kind of usually works out.
Yeah. Don't hold back. Just keep going. When they say it's impossible, add more.
I think we're also in an interesting moment with the medium. I think in terms of what television, we're now a few years into a moment in which we've all been really lucky enough, along with some very, very talented writers and producers and directors, to really explore what TV can be. How, instead of just getting caught in the loop, the virtuous cycle of an engaging cast that people like and a story of the week, I think there's an opportunity for us with Westworld, with the Peripheral, to be fearless and try to really reach for something extraordinary.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you both so much, and again, congratulations on the series.